The story kicks off right in the middle of a completely frozen battlefield. Right then, our MC realizes he took a fatal hit, and there's zero chance of making a getaway. Smack in the middle of his chest, the holy sword of the Order is buried deep, ruining any odds of making it out in one piece. Overjoyed, the enemy knights breathe a massive sigh of relief for finally cornering their main target. After all, our boy is known worldwide as the great demon of the continent. Totally battered, the Necromancer Archimon tries to stay on his feet, fully aware he's on his last legs. With nowhere to run, the villain knows darn well the Grim Reaper is already knocking at his door. His mind quickly flashes back to the 10-year war that wrecked the world and ended in this humiliating defeat. The worst part is knowing his defenses completely crumbled, and this massive fail cost him everything he had. And to top it off, the blame for all this mess falls right into the lap of the Northern Knight Commander, Burkle. Sword in hand, the blonde knight rubs it in his face that he didn't win this war solo. Making the sacrifice of others crystal clear, the hero reminds him that a lot of folks had to bleed for him to reach this point. Cutting to the chase, the commander calls for peace across the continent and tells the villain to just give up already. Furious at the sheer hypocrisy, our necromancer tells the guy to shut his trap, having zero patience for a moral lecture. Full of spite, he points out that the knights let their own people succumb to a plague, and now they want to act like saints. Blinded by rage, the Dark Mage swears to take down every single one of those fake soldiers. Not hiding his grudge at all, our MC promises to send these hypocrites to the afterlife with his bare hands. Suddenly, a bizarre green aura starts leaking from his broken body, creeping everyone out. Jaws drop as the enemies go into absolute shock, watching this absolute monster pull out magic in that beat-up state. Using whatever life he has left, the sorcerer summons the power of necromancy, striking terror into the whole squad. But super calmly, Burkle raises his voice and orders his own troops to fall back before things go south. The knight then brings up the 20 million fallen souls, the villain turned into a zombie army to kick off the war. Scoffing at the whole thing, our MC flashes a twisted smile, not buying this justice nonsense for a second. Right then, he claims the blondie is just out for pure revenge since his hometown also bit the dust. However, the armored hero doesn't even flinch at the taunt and stands his ground. Laser-focused, the guy states he stepped onto this battlefield for one single reason. With his blade glowing brighter, Burkle says he fights and sacrifices everything just for the future of the kids. Faced with such a pure answer, our necromancer's body freezes for a solid second. That unshakable conviction leaves the villain completely speechless and caught off guard. Looking into those righteous eyes, the sorcerer sees his own reflection, completely corrupted by the dark side. In a flash, the moral gap and the insane difference separating the two enemies become painfully obvious. Then a beam of divine light drops from the clouds, lighting up the battlefield in an epic way. Bathed in holy light, the hero raises his weapon, carrying the weight of saving the next generation on his shoulders. In one final move, the knight winds up the ultimate attack to put an end to the threat once and for all. Surprisingly, the blonde stops his swing midair when someone yells for him to hold up. Cool as a cucumber, the guy drives the divine sword into the icy ground, totally dropping his guard. Cold and calculating, he looks at the defeated villain and asks if he has any famous last words. With a creepy smirk, our MC warns him that a necromancer doesn't check out of this world that easily. Out of nowhere, a blur slices through the air at ridiculous speed, sliding right through the sorcerer's neck. With zero mercy, the main character's head is separated from his shoulders in one clean swipe. To the sound of freezing blood, the soldiers scream at the top of their lungs that the final boss is finally gone. Along with the cheers of victory, the continent's demon drops to the ground, marking the fall of the Dark Empire. While the crowd goes wild, the villain hears his own body drop and feels his consciousness fading out. At last, the final curtain falls on the great necromancer, wrapping up 10 years of non-stop chaos. Suddenly, the scene totally flips to a massive mansion, getting battered by a spooky rainstorm in a distant timeline. Inside a fancy bedroom, the maids are gossiping away when they notice some weird movement in the crib. Absolutely shook, the women realize the little newborn's mouth is starting to move. All worked up, the staff says good morning to young Master Klein, while the baby tries to figure out where the heck he spawned. One of them quickly grabs a gold-framed portrait of the Duchess and shows it to the little guy, telling him that's his mom. Feeling stiff in this fragile body, our MC struggles just to wiggle around in his new tiny form. With a ton of effort, the kid tries to babble something, building up some crazy suspense in the room. Over the moon, the maids are almost in tears, thinking the little dude is about to call for his mama for the first time. But shattering every single expectation, the baby opens his mouth and demands the Guardians of Darkness to show up. Going full-on supervillain mode, the toddler barks out dark orders, making the poor lady scream in terror thinking he's the boogeyman. In the blink of an eye, 15 years fly by, and the stormy weather gives way to a whole new era. Now the gloomy vibes are gone, and the castle is soaking up some nice sunshine around a fancy courtyard. Fresh water splashes from a stone fountain on a day that had everything to be perfectly normal. Blushing hard, the maids can't stop whispering about how handsome the young boss is looking today. Totally swooning over his fit, the girls are drooling over his white hair and flawless style. Dripping with swagger, our platinum-haired hero struts by in a suit, looking like a literal masterpiece sent from above. Melting over the teen's good looks, the staff mumbles compliments as he walks past. Ignoring all the hype, the kid strolls with a look of absolute boredom, just trying to live his best peaceful life. But out of nowhere, a shadow sneaks up behind him with a soggy threat ready to strike. Without any warning, some crazy dude dumps a bucket of holy water on our MC's head, telling the evil spirit to hit the road. Looking super suspicious, the nutty priest named Garrison glares at the kid, claiming he saw the demon's face in him. Seeing the drama unfold, the maids dip out fast, terrified of getting caught in the crossfire. Dripping wet, the kid angrily asks if the old man isn't tired of this same old purification nonsense after all these years. Sticking to his conspiracy theory, the priest swears up and down that Archimonde's soul is still locked inside that body. When the kid swears he's not the villain, he takes a blast of water straight to the face without an ounce of pity. Furious at the disrespect, the white-haired teen asks if the old guy has finally crossed the line into total madness. Muttering some heavy complaints under his breath, the kid turns his back to walk away and dodge this annoying chat. But the priest isn't letting him off the hook that easy and orders the guards to grab the kid by force. Bolting like a track star, young Klein runs for his life, swearing he's not the Necromancer just to avoid a naked holy water bath. Underwater, his mind travels back in time, remembering the exact moment he lost his head. Because at the end of the day, our antihero knows darn well he met his maker on that ice and has no clue how he ended up here. Stuck in his memories, the kid is still shook that he got his head chopped off only to wake up in a baby's body. The worst part was that the kid's first words were a dark spell, which got him locked up in a monastery. That's where the little ex-villain ended up crossing paths with a guy claiming to be a priest. Quickly, a massive, intimidating shadow covered the bedroom door. With a twisted smile, Father Garrison almost calls the kid by his demon name before catching himself. Showing zero mercy, the crazy guy forces the kid to listen to loud prayers blasted in his ear all day long. Right after, the poor MC gets tossed into a bathtub full of ice and garlic to ward off evil vibes. Crossing all boundaries, the priest even ties the poor kid to a cross surrounded by fire in some bizarre ritual. Racking up some heavy trauma, the young guy spends his whole childhood just begging for a drop of peace. 5 years later, our hero shows up looking absolutely miserable while wearing a ridiculous party hat. On the flip side, his personal maid Erin is praying with her hands together for the young boss to grow up healthy. Totally drained, the white-haired kid just takes a deep breath, completely out of patience. Fueled by a sudden spike of annoyance, he rips the hat off his head and tosses it on the floor out of spite. Instantly, the poor maid almost bursts into tears, revealing that she was the one who made the accessory. Realizing he messed up, the kid apologizes right away for letting his emotions get the best of him. Almost picking the thing off the floor, he freezes when the girl mentions that Father Garrison helped make it. Instantly, a look of pure disgust takes over the ex-sorcerer's face. Right at that exact moment, the massive figure of the priest himself pops up at the door. Faking a tear, the big brute pretends to be touched seeing the kid wearing his gift. Without a second thought, our MC rips the hat right down the middle with a straight face and a cheeky smirk. Throwing a massive fit, the priest yells that the evil spirit is back, while the teen just demands his dignity back. Cutting the tension, the Knight Commander Dunkel walks in, asking if the circus act is over yet. Smoothly, the soldier points out that these demon rumors have been floating around for over 10 years. Still grabbing the holy man's face trying to throw hands, the kid hears that even the order already cleared his name. Suddenly, the priest bows to the commander, dropping the kid face first onto the floor on purpose. Flat on the ground, the white-haired teen boils with rage, seeing the religious dude act all buddy-buddy with the higher-up. Giving a sarcastic little wave, the big guy announces he's hitting the road. But deep down, the ex-villain knows this crazy old man isn't gonna get off his back that easily. Poking his head through the door, the priest gives a heads up about Friday's ritual and gets chewed out to get lost. Laughing his head off, the priest leaves, leaving our MC breathing heavily from pure stress. Flopping onto the couch, the kid grumbles, feeling super salty about his own bad luck. Fired up, he wonders out loud if a church member really has a free pass to torture someone like that. Bringing over a small towel, the maid throws out the wild guess that maybe he really is the reincarnated demon. Denying it to the bitter end, the teen swears he just hates hearing that cursed name. On the inside, our boy knows the truth, but he's well aware the holy torture will be way worse if he spills the beans. Ever since he respawned, his life has been a surveillance nightmare thanks to those childhood rumors. Pulling his own hair out of frustration, he tries to figure out why that priest acts like a human tick. Curious about the word, the little maid wants to know what on earth an agent is. Looking at the holy book, the explanation shows that this title is only handed out to the most overpowered guys in the order. Aside from the Duke himself, nobody in that entire household would dare go toe-to-toe with that monster in a robe. Amazed by the family's clout, the little girl jumps for joy while our MC just wants to be left alone. Changing the subject, she randomly asks who the most op duke in their entire bloodline was. Smiling, Commander Dunkel answers straight up that the first leader was the absolute goat. Even when the kid tries to gas up his own dad, he gets hit with a flat nope. Getting serious, the teen hears that the first duke was basically an unbeatable legend. Hyped up, the maid confirms that the young boss loves that ancestor and is always staring at his portrait. Lost in thought, our ex-villain sits on the couch, glued to the painting hanging on the wall. Switching gears, the commander mentions it's been exactly 200 years since the family was founded. Staring a hole into the painting, the MC repeats that timeframe, feeling the heavy irony. Unable to believe his own luck, he tries to swallow the universe's sick joke. Looking at the family tree top to bottom, the past comes knocking at his door with a vengeance. Right there in the gold frame sits the first Duke Burkle, the Great Northern Knight. Sweating bullets, the kid realizes he reincarnated as the direct descendant of the absolute jerk who chopped his head off. Instantly, the memories of the armored hero preaching about the future come flooding back. Reliving that embarrassing end, the image of darkness swallowing everything haunts his thoughts. Waking up with a jump, the white-haired teen bounces on the bed, gasping for air. Alone in the dark room, he tries to chill his nerves after that totally bizarre nightmare. Rubbing his face, the guy mutters about the garbage dream and remembers his true evil title. Digging through the past, the kid admits he lost control and almost wiped out the entire globe, which led to him getting taken out by the night and waking up centuries later in this goofy setup. Despite the new life, he sighs, saying he's still not used to the white hair. Out of nowhere, a creepy voice echoes from the door, saying the young man talks way too much in his sleep. Creeping from the shadows, Father Garrison flashes a psycho smile, asking if he was dreaming about his villain days. Trying to play it cool, our MC stutters, claiming he's just tired and backs away looking spooked. Hopping out of the blankets, the maid snitches on her boss, saying she heard him talking in his sleep. Mimicking his doomsday yells, the little girl throws him under the bus, while the kid goes into full panic mode. Saving his hide, the butler Veerman knocks on the door, giving a heads up that an event is about to start. With his eyes glowing with holy fire, the priest promises to double the purification time for that slip-up. Slapping a hand over the little snitch's mouth, the MC gulps, knowing he's totally cooked. Cursing the priest with every word in the dictionary inside his head, the kid leaves his room heading to the event. Stomping down the hallway, the duo chats about some sword demonstration. Walking through the hall, the butler mentions that the Duke himself demanded the kid's attendance. Shocked by the invite, the teen asks about his dad while the maid locks her eyes on a cookie. Scolding the girl for her lack of manners, the polite butler snaps the treat in half. Wrapping up the scene, the redhead munches on the snack looking like a squirrel, while the old man watches fondly. Completely clueless, our boy questions why he was even called to the event since his dad never did that before. Right off the bat, the kid finds out that the Branch family members just set foot in the castle. Deep in thought, the white-haired teen repeats the term, remembering exactly who these parasite relatives are. Stepping into the fancy hall, our hero spots his annoying relatives noticing him walk in. Dripping with sarcasm, one of the nobles tells them to call the kid by his demon name, getting some chuckles from the group. Full of venom, his maternal cousins rub it in his face that he rotted away in the monastery. Eyeing the chubby crowd, the MC notes that the northern relatives only showed up to stuff their faces. Scanning the room, the ex-villain spots the western cousins gathered around a blonde girl sitting there acting all cool. Looking super arrogant, the blonde crosses her legs, giving off major "I own this place" energy. Taking it all in, our guy realizes these jerks are still trash-talking him, thinking they're untouchable. Turning his head with a "don't mess with me" look, the kid glares right at the loudmouth blonde cousin. Clapping back instantly, the kid dryly asks who gave them the green light to talk to him like they're buddies. Dropping his friendly act, our MC blurts out he doesn't even remember their names and thinks about how far the dukedom has fallen. It quickly becomes super obvious that disrespecting a direct heir is the biggest sign of the family losing its grip. Out of nowhere, the clash of swords echoes through the hall, cutting off the trash talk. Furious, the purple-haired attacker forces his blade against his blonde opponent. Demanding respect, the guy yells at his rival to stop going easy on him. Cold as ice, Dylan tells him the duel is already over, but the stubborn Dalton refuses to take the. Smiling with total confidence, the blondie proves why he's the Reinland family's only hope. Acknowledging the guy's skill, our MC admits his older half-brother is an absolute prodigy with the sword. Trading lightning-fast blows in the center of the arena, the genius shows he carries the family's reputation on his back. Driven by desperation, Dalton charges in with murder in his eyes, swearing to turn the tables. Locking on with his magic eye, the ex-necromancer analyzes his family's technique for the first time in this new life. Moving with ridiculous grace, the older brother dodges a fatal swing without breaking a sweat. Suddenly, an explosive yellow aura covers the blonde's body as he launches a brutal counterattack. Reading every tiny detail of the movement, the MC manages to see the secrets hiding behind the strike. Grasping the core of the technique, the white-haired teen figures out how the footwork sets the whole pace. Along with the burst of speed, the ex-villain understands the exact moment the foot hits the ground. Realizing he messed up, the purple-haired guy panics as his opponent practically vanishes. Scanning the energy flow, our boy completely decodes the bloodline's secret technique. Leaving zero room to block, Dylan brings his blade down in a devastating move called the Meteor Sword. Calling the match, the ref ends the fight the second the wooden weapon goes flying. Keeping his winner's pose, the brother reminds him he already warned him about the danger. Totally blown away, the nobles in the crowd whisper in awe about the legendary strike. Rubbing his glowing eye, the white-haired kid ignores the politics and feels a weird burning sensation in his vision. Right away, our MC's name echoes loudly through the hall, grabbing his attention. Walking up to his little brother, Dylan flashes a smile, asking how long he's been standing there. Joking around, the winner teases that he would have put on a better show if he knew he had VIPs watching. Staring at the golden child, the kid just wants to know the real reason this plague of a branch family showed up. Cutting the small talk, an intimidating man walks over to congratulate his oldest kid. Rocking a light beard, the 7th Duke Heinkel praises the insane mastery of the secret technique. With a quick bow, the heir greets the patriarch while our MC just watches from the sidelines. Looking deep into his son's eyes, the dad acknowledges the grind it took to reach that level. Catching on to the vibe, the ex-villain figures the oldest kid is the only reason the old man has any pride left. Kissing up a bit, Commander Dunkel points out that any standard knight would embarrass themselves trying to copy that. Trying to stay humble, the prodigy says thanks but gets cut off by his dad's stern voice. Bringing up their glorious past, the old man quotes the founder's rule, demanding their bloodline remain the strongest. Demanding absolute dedication, the leader tells his son to carve that lesson into his brain, getting a highly energetic "yes sir." Shifting focus out of nowhere, the patriarch's cold glare lands heavily on his youngest. Slowly, the Duke's calloused hand rests on our hero's head, making the vibe super tense. Without sugarcoating it, the old man throws out how disappointed he is that he can't feel a single drop of mana in the kid. Lowering his head, the teen apologizes, fully aware that even his dad's anger has faded into pure disgust. Trying to run interference, the commander makes the excuse that the wasted years in the monastery ruined the kid's growth. Spreading gossip like wildfire, the rat relatives start whispering about the youngest being a total flop. Jumping on the chance, the branch family members start doubting the main bloodline's ability to hold on to power. Not giving a single hoot about the insults, the ex-necromancer focuses all his hate squarely on the legendary hero. Popping up in his memory, the first night's pure words come back to haunt the sorcerer. Clenching his fists, the kid thinks it's the ultimate joke that the guy gave his life for the future of this trash family. Snapping him out of it, his brother waves goodbye as he follows their dad down the hall. Not even giving him a second to breathe, the purple-haired loser pops up next to our MC, dripping with attitude. Shaking with anger, the coward tries to step on the kid with zero mana to make up for getting humiliated in the duel. Spotting this jerk Dalton from a mile away, our boy exposes the guy's dirty laundry with the girls in the back of the room. Called out in front of everyone, the loser starts panicking while our hero calls him a moron. Going for a blind attack, the guy takes a bad step when a foot magically appears in his way. Losing his balance, the attacker kisses the fancy rug thanks to a sneaky trip from the youngest heir. With blood dripping from his nose, the failure foams at the mouth listening to the MC spit straight facts at him. Sinking to the bottom of the barrel, the guy fires back that the kid is an orphan who never even saw his own mother's face. Turning his neck super slowly, the white-haired teen shoots a look of pure murderous intent. Brushing off the personal jab, the ex-villain gets ticked off by the audacity of these rats challenging the main bloodline. Activating the hidden power in his eye, the warlock wonders how a family this feared hit rock bottom. Absolutely disgusted, he can't swallow the fact that the great hero's house turned into this walking joke. Breaking up the mess, the Knight Commander steps in, flexing his authority over the attacker. With a booming voice, the soldier warns that he won't let another insult against the young master slide. Picking himself off the floor, the useless guy calls our MC a coward for hiding behind his bodyguard. Hearing the disrespect, the commander grips his sword hilt, showing he is fresh out of patience. Without hesitating, the protagonist decides to break the silence of the night, calling out to his bodyguard. In a dark, isolated spot, the kid straight up asks if the soldier has a spare sword on him. Not asking too many questions, Dunkel hands a training weapon over to the boy. Curious, the big guy just asks why the young master needs a blade at this hour. Right away, the white-haired teen swings the sword around, trying to mimic his brother's stance and asking about the famous meteor sword. With that, the ex-villain says he has something to test out and tells the guy to head back first, while the soldier notices how attached the kid is to the weapon. Keeping quiet, the knight feels bad internally, knowing the kid has a body totally running on empty when it comes to mana. It's pretty obvious that someone with zero magic energy is never going to become a real knight. Plus, the meteor technique was whipped up by the founder himself, and pulling it off without magic is considered flat-out impossible. Suddenly, the warlock's purple eye glows bright, showing that the earlier duel is stuck in his head in crazy detail. Instantly, the kid mentally runs through the footwork, and the exact split second the foot hits the ground. Flawlessly, the guy visualizes the arc of the blade and the energy flow of the strike. Insanely enough, our MC's magic eye triggers some surreal processing power. At that exact second, Dunkel freezes in his tracks, feeling a monstrous aura pop up out of nowhere. Totally shook, the soldier's eyes bug out, wondering if what he's seeing is even possible. Like a lightning bolt, a destructive purple flash tears through the dark, blowing up a massive rock in the blink of an eye. Standing in front of the totally vaporized boulder, the kid stays frozen, with his sword letting off some spooky smoke. Not believing his own eyes, the knight calls out to the young master with a shaky voice. Just as mind-blown as the guard, our hero cracks a nervous smile and whispers in shock that the trick actually worked. Cutting to another scene, the little maid Erin is watching something with pure terror in her eyes. Totally locked in, Father Garrison lets out a spooked mumble looking at what he's holding. Shoved into a bucket of boiling water, the white-haired teen's head proves his bizarre durability. Impressed, the priest notes that the kid has held his breath underwater for over a minute, while the maid calls her boss a fish. Desperate for air, the kid yells in annoyance, asking if the next ritual is gonna be inside a fish tank. Foaming with rage, the ex-necromancer complains about how long this is taking, while the priest laughs, saying he sensed some bad mojo coming from his room today. Quickly, our MC realizes he caught this extended punishment just because of that late-night magic trick in the woods. Suddenly, Dunkel interrupts the shouting match, stepping into the room holding a mysterious letter. In a rush, the soldier announces that the snobby Dalton sent an invite, looking to apologize for the scene at the training grounds. With a towel on his head, the warlock thinks the mood swing is super fishy and immediately distrusts that piece of garbage. Reading the scribbled note, the young master does a quick skim of what it says. Being nosy, the maid slides across the floor and listens as the kid reads that it's just a simple hunting competition. With a calculating look, our hero figures out instantly that his cousin just needed a lame excuse to lure him outside. Not wasting any time, the white-haired teen hands the paper back, saying he has zero reasons to turn down a trip. Feeling confident, he flashes a little smirk, glancing toward the back of the room. Leaning against the wall, the training sword sits there, proving the kid has a major trick up his sleeve. Thinking back, he admits he spent the last few days replaying his brother's fight on a loop in his head. Thanks to his special eye, the truth about his new skill is finally out in the open. Scary enough, he realized he can perfectly copy any technique just by seeing it once in his life. Confirming they're going, Dunkel says he'll get the carriage ready for this so-called competition. Out of nowhere, Father Garrison volunteers to tag along, making the kid lose his mind, asking what kind of joke this is. Without blinking, the priest stares the kid down with a heavy, warning look. In a creepy tone, the holy man explains that he felt a really strong dark energy that morning. Proving his bad feeling right, the carriage is already seen tearing down the dirt road heading to the event. Having a rough ride, poor Erin gets super carsick while the priest tries to calm her down as the wagon bounces around. Being blunt, the big guy grumbles that he told her not to come and tosses her a pillow. Checking out the view, the white-haired teen points out that the western forest has awful terrain for beginners. Softening his voice, the priest promises the maid she'll feel better once she lies down for a bit. Faking some emotion, the priest says the young man has grown a lot, but gets completely shut down when the kid tells him to just give the girl the pillow already. Turning his face to the window, the MC notices how much the landscape has changed. Back in the day, this exact spot was an ice field covered in bodies from the war he started. Recognizing the miracle, the ex-warlock admits the hero Burkle actually did a solid job cleaning up the continent's mess. Dunkel immediately snaps him out of his thoughts, opening the carriage door to announce they've arrived. Right off the bat, the Cornwell family's massive estate towers over them, showing off the Branch family's absurd wealth. Hopping out of the ride, the kid double-checks if this is really where that coward Dalton lives. Paying attention to the details, our MC realizes the Branch house flexes more luxury than the main headquarters itself. Annoyed, he thinks it's a total joke that these guys blow so much cash on a useless event just for kids to get wasted. Accompanied by some monstrous hunting dogs, Dalton struts up with an arrogant grin, asking what his cousin is staring at. Flexing without shame, the little villain reveals the mansion was built entirely with money leached off the main family. The starving hounds look terrifying while the noble mocks the years our hero spent locked in the monastery, thinking he's completely useless. Brushing off the insults, the white-haired kid focuses on the bony dogs and questions what kind of hunt turns into a chat session. With a sick smile, the cousin says he set everything up precisely because he knew how impatient the kid was. Acting all dramatic, the jerk throws his hand open and tells our MC to pay close attention. Ready to cause trouble, the noble kicks off the event while keeping a tight grip on the pack's leashes. Like a total psycho, the little villain mentions he scattered chunks of raw meat all over the mountain slope. Desperate for food, the crazed dogs bolt into the woods, using a sense of smell 100,000 times better than a human's. Knocking an arrow, the host explains that the starving beasts are the actual targets of the game. Showing absolutely zero mercy, the coward shoots arrows right into the dogs' backs. Totally unhinged, the purple-haired kid celebrates his sick little hunt with exaggerated laughs. Walking closer to her boss, little Erin accidentally catches the crazy guy's attention. Spotting his new target, the cousin drops a heavy hand on the girl's head with cruel intentions. Looking disgusted, he says he doesn't get why the MC drags such weak trash around everywhere. Roughly, he yanks the kid's arm, digging his fingers in just to scare the poor girl. Instantly, our MC's hand clamps down on the attacker's wrist with brutal force, demanding he let go. With pure hatred in his eyes, the white-haired teen promises to snap the snob's arm if he doesn't listen right this second. Using crushing pressure, our hero makes the coward drop the girl out of pure shock, letting him feel the strength of a true monster. Furious about the threat, the rich kid slaps the MC's hand away, telling him to stop acting tough. With a maniacal laugh, Dalton dares his platinum-haired cousin to come and get him. Even with his bodyguard warning him it's sketchy, our boy hops on a horse, ready to chase him down. Pulling a scroll from his pocket, the soldier tries to tag along to keep the young master safe. Quickly, the camera focuses on a magical flare scroll that works without needing any mana. Right then, our MC gives a heads up that the crazy priest followed them, and if he disappears, it means things hit the fan. He then lays out the plan, telling the guard to rip the paper if anything goes wrong, which will trigger a warning seal on his hand. Locked in, the knight accepts the order while the kid takes off on his horse. Riding through the dark woods, the ex-villain knows the coward couldn't have gotten far. Up ahead, he spots something off in the middle of the path. With a blood-soaked sword, the disgusting cousin mocks him, asking if the kid took his sweet time surrounded by dead beasts. Already off his horse, the white-haired teen drops the big question, asking what the joke is this time. With murder in his eyes, the kid shows exactly zero fear of walking into a trap. Full of himself, the little villain announces that this is the grand finale of the hunting competition. Getting straight to it, Dalton declares that the final prey of the day is going to be his own cousin. Showing no pity, the jerk plans to rip our MC's head off and toss it at his older brother's feet. Amidst his trash talk, the purple-haired guy calls the main family a powerless, empty joke. After a snap of his fingers, a squad of mercenaries steps out of the shadows, and the villain guarantees there's no way out. Laughing it up, the goons cheer, saying the dukedom practically belongs to the Branch family anyway. With their bows ready to fire, the snipers tell the kid to curse the day he was born into this trash family. Letting out a heavy sigh, the ex-necromancer just agrees, letting out a quiet yeah. Convinced he's already won, Dalton laughs, imagining tomorrow's gossip about the Sword family falling from grace. Yelling at the top of his lungs, the coward says the young master is gonna meet his maker as dog food. Immediately, the memory of the hero who took him out flashes in our MC's mind, talking about the kid's future. Suddenly, an insane, terrifying laugh erupts from our hero's throat. Confused by this bizarre reaction, the little villain takes a step back, asking if the kid finally lost his mind. Holding his face to hold back the laughter, the white-haired kid realizes the sick irony of the whole setup. Half human, half legend of the past, his eyes shift, revealing the true face of the demon. Consumed by fury, he throws it in their faces that the dukedom was built over his dead body, and now these worms have the nerve to mock it. Suddenly, a spooky green energy starts pouring out of his body, tearing through the air. Shocked by the light show, Dalton stutters, asking how the kid is using magic if he was born without mana. With his massive aura distorting everything, the kid corrects him instantly, revealing that it's pure demonic energy. Panicking, the goons try to block the insane wind, having no clue what kind of monster they're dealing with. Still shook, the cousin's eyes bulge as his brain registers the words demonic energy. Flashing a devilish smile, the warlock starts chanting a forbidden spell, calling out to the ancient spirits. In the middle of the chaos, the summoning promises to drag the dead back into the light. Like something straight out of a nightmare, skeletons burning in green flames start taking shape, starving to devour everything. Terrified, the coward screams his head off, swearing this can't be real. Surrounded by an army of giant bones, the white-haired teen fully embraces his identity as the feared Archimand. With a creepy smirk, the final order drops, telling the undead squad to wipe out every last enemy. In his own head, the narrator reflects that 2 long centuries have passed since the Great War. Back in the day, the warlock used to stroll through oceans of bodies during those distant times. Even after centuries, the feeling of souls stacking up in the dark is still fresh. Trapped in the shadows, the voices of the dead never stopped calling out for their true master. Along with the flashback, the warlock drinks in the dark, nostalgia rushing back. Deep in his chest, he feels that gloomy throwback energy pumping through his veins. Almost having a heart attack, the mercenary leader yells that this whole situation is ridiculous and impossible. Faced with the spooky troops, pure terror takes over the camp as the necromancer's name is shouted out loud. Not hiding his roots, the kid proudly confirms that people used to call him by that legendary title. Whispering among themselves, the goons wonder if the demon legend was just a scary bedtime story. Even though he's terrified, the little villain tries to hide his fear by trashing the monster's looks. Mocking them, the mercenaries point at the skulls, calling the army a pile of bones. Trying to downplay the threat, Dalton claims his cousin put on this whole light show just to summon garbage. Finding his fake courage again, the purple-haired guy brags that he's smashed hundreds of skeletons on missions, but admits their black color is a bit weird. Ignoring the difference, the bunch of idiots joke about taking a bone home as a souvenir and burst out laughing. Following their boss's orders, the mercs focus on taking out the frontline monsters to clear the way. Quickly, the archers ready their bows, aiming right at our MC's defensive line. Cool as can be, the white-haired teen just stands there behind his personal guard while the crossbows are loaded up. At the shout to fire, the shooters unleash a massive volley of arrows all at once. Flying through the air, the lethal rain comes down hard, aiming to turn the kid into Swiss cheese. Living in a fantasy world, Dalton celebrates early, swearing his little cousin just got turned into mincemeat. But a second later, the coward's smile drops, replaced by a look of absolute shock. Instantly, the black skeletons linked up their bodies, forming a massive, unbreakable shield. Cold and calculating, the ex-warlock realizes that after 200 years, people completely forgot what these monsters were about. Completely stunned, the mercenaries freak out seeing the creatures pull shields out of thin air. Super chill, the young master mentions it would make sense to underestimate his squad if they were just average skeletons. Flashing that dark smile, he drops the mic, saying his soldiers are on a whole different level. Reaching out to the old hero, our protagonist mentally asks the legend to grab a front row seat for the show. Without wasting a second, the monsters drop the barrier and unleash their first line of defense. Full of spite, he warns that the worms who mock the future the Northern Knight protected are gonna pay a heavy price. Clenching his fist hard, he screams the order for a direct assault across the battlefield. Moving at insane speeds, the creatures launch forward, tearing up the ground as they rush the archers. Panicking, the preppy kid stammers, completely failing to process how fast the pack is moving. In utter disbelief, one of the goons cries out in panic, realizing the skeletons are sprinting like track stars. Completely terrified, Dalton begs his crew to hold the line right as the deadly impact hits. Slicing and dicing everything in their path, the Bone Squad turns the enemy camp into a total bloodbath. Not losing his cool for a second, the young master orders his second unit of crossbowmen to lock down the area. Hiding in the tree branches, the monsters aim straight for the heads of the terrified mercenaries. With their weapons primed, the creatures just wait for the word to unleash a rain of arrows. Screaming in panic, the goons spot the long-range setup and try to make a run for it. But it's way too late to run when the bolts bury themselves mercilessly into the idiots' chests. With deadly accuracy, one shot goes right through a soldier's skull, taking him out instantly. In a move of pure desperation, Dalton manages to chop one of the monsters in half with his sword. Sweating bullets, the coward realizes these agile beasts are nothing like the slow-moving targets he's used to. Switching up the game plan, the preppy kid yells for his crew to drop the bows and go for close-quarters combat. Furious, he notices nobody is listening to his orders in the middle of all that bloody chaos. Gripping his blade tight, the little villain forces a twisted smile, thinking he still has a shot. Cursing the undead, he charges in, swinging heavily through the air. Believing he found their weak spot, the jerk cheers after landing a direct hit on a monster's head. Stumbling backward, the bony body crashes to the ground, looking totally defeated. Out of breath, the guy realizes something is super wrong when the monster keeps moving even without a head. Laughing at the guy's cluelessness, the ex-necromancer just watches his cousin make a fool of himself. Bizarrely, the creature grabs its own fallen head and pops it right back onto its neck. Cracking its bones, the dark soldier heals up, showing exactly why the demon ruled the continent back in the day. Jaws on the floor, Dalton's brain short-circuits seeing that beings summoned with black magic are practically immortal. With its eyes burning bright, the beast waits for the master's next tactical move. Absolutely petrified, the goons lose all hope facing this unbeatable army. Strolling through his minions, the white-haired teen sets the tempo for the slaughter. Testing his own limits, our MC admits that in this weak body, he can only keep 11 soldiers up and running. Messing with them psychologically, he sarcastically asks if they're still playing their hunting game. Suddenly, the scene cuts to a loud laugh echoing near the castle fountain. Sitting right there, the gossipy priest is telling old monastery stories to the nosy little maid. Cracking up, the redhead loves hearing about her boss's past while the priest tries to look cool. Noticing how much she cares, the big holy man points out how attached the girl is to our MC. Puffing out her cheeks, the kid fires back that it's the most obvious thing in the world. Soon enough, her memories flash back to the boy acting as a human shield and telling someone to stop hurting her. Shaking like a leaf, some random bully is crying on the floor after getting a well-deserved beatdown. Laying the smackdown on the attacker, the white-haired kid stood up for his maid's honor without a second thought. Despite the blood flying everywhere, the girl ignores the violence and only remembers him sharing his cookies. Blinded by innocence, she swears up and down that the ex-warlock is the sweetest guy in the universe. Cutting back to the forest, the kid's cold, blood-splattered stare proves the exact opposite. Slicing up the enemies without a second thought, the undead squad turns the whole place into a slaughterhouse. Blocking a heavy hit, the preppy cousin grinds his teeth, feeling his arm ache. Using every ounce of strength he has left, the guy fights back, knocking the creature away with a spinning strike. Boiling with rage, the coward realizes he has to stop the monster's crazy healing factor. Locking onto the puppet master, the jerk aims straight for our MC who's just chilling in the back. Taking a risky leap, the little villain ignores the soldiers and rushes the main target. Screaming his cousin's name, Dalton brings his blade down with total murderous intent. Losing his mind, he yells that without the master, the spell will break instantly. Unloading his final burst of rage, the glowing strike cuts through the air heading straight for our MC. Locking on with his magic eye, the ex-necromancer activates his stolen move-reading skill. Gripping the handle of his own sword, a purple aura wraps around the training weapon. Copying the stance flawlessly, he gets ready to unleash the family's ultimate move he memorized earlier today. Recognizing his older brother's style, the cousin goes into absolute shock. Tearing across the battlefield, the ridiculous impact of the meteor strike clashes with the enemy's weapon. Shattering the cheap blade, the attack hits the coward dead in the chest, sending blood flying. Staring down at the trash on the ground, our MC coldly announces that judgment has just begun. Spitting blood into the grass, the defeated loser tries to catch his breath as the warlock walks up slowly. Remembering his own demise, our boy confirms that taking out the summoner is necromancy's fatal flaw. Summoning demonic energy into the palm of his hand, he thinks back on his dark past. Gripping the sword tight, it's pretty ironic that he's using his old rival's move to protect himself today. Accepting his fate, the kid realizes the executioner's bloodline actually made him way more op. Flat on the ground, the cousin listens to the monster's rant, without understanding a single word. Shaking from the pain, the preppy guy tries to question his relative's sanity. Stepping firmly on the loser, the white-haired teen mentally promises to make his ancestor proud. Taking the reins, he declares he's going to rebuild that broke dukedom with his bare hands. Cutting scenes, the little villain wakes up groggy in a totally dark and bizarre place. Feeling his arms strapped to some wood, he tries to focus his eyes in the pitch black. Realizing he's in deep trouble, he notices he's tied to a torture chair covered in spikes. Rattling the chains, the guy freaks out, demanding answers from the shadowy figure. Revealing his ancient face, the great Necromancer announces that this is the afterlife he created. Stuttering in terror, the coward repeats the demon's name, shrinking back into the chair. Listing off the scumbag's crimes, the entity brings up how he abused and killed the hunting dogs. Jogging the sadist's memory, images flash showing his sick joy while shooting the beasts. Screaming like a lunatic, the prisoner denies the charges and demands to be let go right away. Stopping his tantrum mid-sentence, the reality of the situation finally hits the coward. Reliving the impact of the meteor strike, he clearly remembers his chest getting ripped open by the sword. Checking his own injury-free body, he hears the cold verdict that his life is officially over. Crying in despair, the noble refuses to accept that he kicked the bucket and demands to go back to the real world. Ignoring the loser's tears, the Dark Lord pulls the flames from his soul, kicking off his eternal torture. Without an ounce of pity, the Bone Squad kicks off a brutal massacre in the camp. Looking like a total boss, the young master orders the second unit of crossbowmen to strike. Hidden in the branches, the creepy creatures aim straight for the enemy's heads. With crossbows in hand, the soldiers just wait for the green light to fire. In a panic, the goons realize it's a trap and try to make a run for it. In a flash, the heavy rain of arrows drops, turning the idiots into Swiss cheese. With insane aim, one shot goes right through a bandit's skull on the spot. Riding an adrenaline rush, the rich kid manages to chop a skeleton in half with one swing. Sweaty and nervous, the coward notices these beasts are way different from normal freaks. Out of nowhere, the little villain tells the group to drop their bows and throw hands. Blinded by rage, the leader realizes nobody is listening to his orders in all that chaos. Gripping his sword, the jerk forces a smile, thinking he actually has a shot at winning. Consumed by fury, the noble charges in, slicing the air against the undead. Hitting the weak spot perfectly, the preppy kid cheers after landing a solid headshot on the beast. To his surprise, the creepy body drops into the brush and looks totally finished. Gasping for air, the villain finds it super weird that the headless creature keeps moving. Enjoying his cousin's stupidity, the ex-necromancer just laughs from his VIP seat. Bizarrely, the freak picks its own head off the ground and casually pops it back onto its neck. With a crack of the joints, the soldier heals up, proving the old demon's power. Jaw dropped, the cousin goes into shock, realizing these pests don't go down easy. With magic sparking in its eyes, the beast locks onto the target, ready to land the fatal blow. Absolutely terrified, the mercenaries lose any shred of hope of making it out alive. Super chill amidst the chaos, the white-haired teen controls the absolute pace of the slaughter. Because of his fragile body, our hero notices that keeping 11 summons up is his absolute limit. Mocking the whole situation, the kid asks if playtime is over yet. Right after, a memory interrupts the mood, bringing back the girl's laugh at the castle. Sitting right there, the gossipy priest shares old stories with the little maid. All hyped up, the redhead loves finding out about her young boss's embarrassing childhood moments. Noticing that massive affection, the big guy points out how she always goes to bat for the boss. Pouting, the kid fires back that it's the bare minimum she could do. Then the memory jumps to the day our MC played human shield to protect her. Sprawled on the floor, a bully cries with a busted face in serious pain. With a clean hit, the white-haired teen wrecked the attacker to keep his friend out of danger. Forgetting the brutal beatdown, the girl only focuses on the time he shared his snack cookies. Blinded by innocence, the little girl insists the reincarnated warlock is the gentlest guy in the universe. But in real life, the kid's dark stare shatters any illusion of him being a good guy. Like a steamroller, the dark squad turns the woods into a slaughterhouse for nobles. Holding his guard up, the cousin tanks a heavy hit and almost chips his teeth. Running on pure instinct, the coward knocks the skeleton back with a powerful spinning move. Boiling with hate, the jerk decides he has to stop the horde's endless healing. Narrowing his eyes, the villain spots the puppet master standing unprotected at the back of the field. In a fit of madness, the rich kid ditches his goons and sprints toward the main target. Practically foaming at the mouth, the preppy guy raises his blade, ready to slice up his unarmed relative. Screaming his lungs out, the guy explains that taking out the summoner shuts down all the creatures instantly. Unloading his final rage, the sword comes down, slicing the air straight for our MC's skull. With his magic eye dialed in, the ex-villain reads the hidden movements perfectly. The second he grabs the training weapon, purple energy coats the blade. Copying it exactly, he gets ready to bust out the forbidden move he memorized. Faced with his brother's stance, the attacker freezes midair, totally panicking. Like a lightning bolt, the famous meteor sword blasts the villain with devastating force. From the impact, the expensive blade shatters, and the strike tears a gash into the preppy kid's chest. Straight up, the warlock tells the trash on the ground that the real judgment has begun. With blood in his mouth, the defeated guy fights to get oxygen into his busted lungs. In a quick flashback, our MC remembers that he lost his life exactly because of that weakness. With magic glowing in his hand, the Dark Lord misses his unlimited power. By some twist of fate, the same family skill that took him out is now saving his skin. Aware of the karma, the kid notes that his rival's strength only beefed up his own arsenal. Tossed in the mud, the loser doesn't understand a single thing from the other guy's monologue. Too scared to think, the rich kid mumbles, demanding to know what that crazy talk means. Ignoring the worm, our hero promises that his dead ancestor is gonna get a front row seat to this. Full of conviction, our MC swears to rebuild the House of the Sword from the ground up. Declaring the end of the sinners, the priest steps up with clenched fists, radiating pure light. With a sick gleam in his eye, the psycho tells the enemies to beg for mercy. Announcing a baptism by fire, the holy man obliterates the goons' heads with massive blasts. Running in absolute panic, the bandits try to escape this violent cleansing of sins. Stomping hard, the sheer pressure of his move craters the earth, leaving a dark pit. Showing no pity, the divine magic pops multiple skulls at once in a literal bloodbath. Raising his golden book, the executioner seals the sinner's fate, laying down the final judgment. Totally in disbelief, the gang leader wonders what an agent is even doing out in the woods. Strolling like a boss through the bodies, the priest spreads an aura of pure terror across the field. Turning tail, the merc runs for his life, cursing his client for this colossal setup. Picking up the pace, the rat focuses only on escaping, thinking this whole thing is absurd. Killing his hope, the big guy's heavy hand snatches the runner's head right out of the air. Screaming in agony, the coward cries as the fingers crush his face with freakish strength. Wrapping up the horror show, the madman flashes a cold smile, mentioning he still needs to finish his prayer. Terrified by his final sentence, the coward cries tears of pure desperation. Calling upon the power of light, the priest unleashes a crushing attack without an ounce of mercy. Suddenly, our MC does a quick backstep to dodge the incoming danger. Creepily, a severed eye rolls across the grass, stopping right next to his shoe. Cold and calculated, the white-haired teen stares at the bizarre scene while hearing his name called out. With heavy footsteps, the executioner walks straight toward the kid. Just from the giant's overwhelming presence alone, our boys start sweating bullets. Totally shook, the ex-villain realizes dozens of bodies were shredded in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, the brute's bloody hand reaches out, practically grabbing the kid by the neck. Clamping down on the young master's shoulder, the holy man says he felt Necromancer energy and rushed over. With a suspicious little smile, the big guy mentions there's something super fishy about this whole setup. Still holding the kid tight, the crazy dude says the magic he felt earlier just vanished. Dropping his smile for a deadly glare, the priest concludes the spell definitely didn't belong to the defeated trash on the ground. Drowning in tension, our MC gulps, realizing how sharp this bastard actually is. Pinned by the giant hand, our hero knows any slip-up will get him sent to the afterlife right then and there. Saving the day, Commander Dunkel appears on the horizon, galloping over at top speed. Looking desperate, the bodyguard yells out, asking if the boss is okay. Relieved by the interruption, the kid turns his head, calling for his rescue. With blood dripping down his head, the reincarnated warlock notices that using heavy magic in this weak body came with a hefty price tag. Totally freaking out at the sight of the wound, the knight lets out a desperate yell. Hopping off his horse, the soldier sprints like a madman toward the duo. Full of worry, Dunkel catches his young boss, demanding to know what went down, while the kid mumbles that he can't feel his legs. Panting through the pain, the white-haired teen hears the soldier ask where the cowardly cousin is. Dry and straight to the point, the ex-villain shamelessly admits he sent his relative packing. Then the scene cuts to the fancy castle, showing that our MC claimed self-defense against an assassination attempt. Exploding with rage, a heavy hand slams onto the wooden table, demanding an explanation. Shaking with anger, Count Delkin screams, refusing to believe his son tried to take out the main heir. Inside a massive courtroom, the furious dad swears the deceased was a loyal, honorable knight. Cool as ice, Duke Heinkel holds up a document, telling them to focus on the real culprit. With a firm voice, the patriarch defends that his youngest sat through hours of questioning without changing his story once. Showing zero pity, he drops the receipts, proving the Branch family hired 20 mercs for the ambush. Totally cornered, the Branch leader sweats bullets, mentally cursing his goons for leaving a paper trail. In a panic, the noble yells that the story is nonsense, since the white-haired kid never touched a sword in his life. Up in the stands, the gossip spreads, questioning how a useless kid with no mana could have iced an elite soldier. Thinking only of himself, the Branch leader realizes that taking the blame means going down with his dead kid. Quickly changing tactics, the scumbag starts attacking our hero's shady reputation to turn the tables. Bringing up the past, the old man exposes the late Duchess's rep and the kid's old rants about being the Demon King. Furious at the disrespect, Patriarch Heinkel tells his rival to wash his mouth out before calling his blood a liar. Spinning a wild theory, the Count screams that our MC hired hitmen, right before a deep voice interrupts the whole circus. Instantly, the accuser freezes, recognizing the owner of that threatening tone. Stepping firmly onto the stairs, our boy announces he sat quietly through this freak show until now. Without blinking, the ex-villain plays Father Garrison's card, claiming he only defended himself against undead summoned by someone else. Outraged, the rival calls his excuse a blatant lie, while our MC just flashes an ironic smile. Dripping with sarcasm, the kid fires back, asking if the rumor about him being the reincarnation of evil is also true. Foaming at the mouth, the Branch noble grinds his teeth while our hero makes a dark promise in his head. With his eye glowing with pure magic, the kid swears to rebuild the dukedom without letting these parasites ruin the legacy. Ready to crush the cocky Branch family, the little warlock is snapped out of his thoughts by loud knocks on the double doors. Like magic, blonde hair steps through the entrance, apologizing for crashing the tense meeting. With an overwhelming presence, Commander Leia makes her grand entrance, shutting the whole room up. Suspicious of the timing, the kid thinks it's weird for the warrior to show up at a closed family trial. Sitting on his throne, Duke Heinkel takes the heat, allowing the blonde to join even though she's from a different clan. Backing up his call, the patriarch explains that the deceased used to run missions under her military banner. Right after, the commander takes off her coat, flexing her authority as a high-ranking officer. In a flash, the two lock eyes, and the warrior immediately drops a weird request. Not beating around the bush, the spear-wielding lady demands a private chat with our hero, leaving him totally confused. Completely lost, the kid questions the move, but his dad greenlights it as long as they make it quick. Against his will, our MC follows the Duke's order, having nowhere to run and no excuse to use. Super annoyed on the inside, the young master curses knights for always sticking their noses in his business. Flipping a switch, the little warlock's brain realizes this private gossip session might actually drop some valuable info. Walking down the stairs, he figures the blonde is probably testing the waters to dig up family dirt. Determined to the core, the kid walks through the door, promising himself he won't back down from his endgame. Locked in a private hallway, the ex-Necromancer plans to use the rival clan's clout to push his own agenda. Surprisingly, the warrior's intimidating vibe drops a bit with a visual shot focusing right on her toned legs. Practically rubbing her face against his, the spear lady makes an insanely weird request, leaving him shook. Face to face with the beauty, the little warlock gets tongue-tied, demanding she repeat the crazy thing she just said. Officially, this blonde is the prodigy daughter of one of the top 3 dukedoms and an absolute master with the spear. In the history books, records prove this woman took on hordes of nasty ogres without breaking a sweat. Under a rain of giant axes, the commander stayed flawless, facing danger head-on. Glowing with pure blue energy, the warrior wiped out the western forest in a brutal military sweep. Chopping the brutes in half midair, she finished the hunt, securing civil peace all by herself. Packing monstrous power, the beauty carries the weight of entire battalions on her shoulders. Back in the present, the impatient lady calls the kid out, telling him to pick up the pace in the hallway. Trying to keep up, the kid gets shut down fast, hearing that they aren't even real family anyway. Digging through his memories, the warlock remembers his dad explaining the messy web of noble marriages and gets the picture. Biologically split by different moms, the blonde makes it crystal clear they are total strangers ready to make a deal. With a fake tear rolling down, the warrior says she's just asking out of pure personal curiosity now. Moving fast, the blonde grabs our guy's shirt, giving him a massive jump scare. With her face practically glued to his, the commander asks if she can touch him. Totally glitching out, the white-haired teen repeats the question, not understanding this sudden intimacy. Way too quick, the spear lady doesn't even wait for a yes and grabs the kid's hand. Inspecting his skin up close, the beauty notices his hand is as smooth as a baby's, without a single callus or scar. Panicking internally, our MC thinks the checkup is weird while hearing her say that any trained swordsman has battle scars. Squeezing his fingers, the woman states that tendons don't lie. Straight to the point, the warrior throws it in his face that he's never held a weapon in his life. Putting the pieces together, the blonde asks how a rookie managed to butcher Dalton and 20 trained mercenaries. Immediately, the suspicion of some dark, hidden power hangs heavy in the air. Shoving her away defensively, our warlock pushes the commander back a bit rough. Flashing a cynical smile, the guy sarcastically asks if she also thinks he's the reincarnation of the demon. From her sharp glare, it's obvious this isn't just curiosity, and any hesitation will confirm her suspicions. Deciding to play the game, the ex-villain puts on an arrogant front and hits her with a bold "what if I am?" With a mocking laugh, the white-haired teen clowns on the absurd theory. Completely fooled, the woman relaxes her stance, stating it would be impossible for some brat to be the Dark Lord. Totally offended, our MC's eyes go wide hearing the random insult. Purely insulted, the kid asks her to repeat that, and the warrior doubles down without blinking. Showing zero mercy for the guy's ego, the blonde lists off all his physical flaws, guaranteeing he doesn't command any respect. With his pride stomped on, the former necromancer deflates while listening to a very weird challenge from the lady. Being super direct, the commander promises to give the kid a kiss if he can prove he can beat a knight. Looking completely lost, our hero sees absolutely zero upside to this prize and thinks the offer is totally useless. On the way back to the main hall, our MC racks his brain trying to figure out if that was a bribe or a political play. Right before walking back in, the blonde drops one last warning. In a mysterious tone, she whispers that the real demon would never act like that. Instantly, their footsteps echo through the courtroom as the guards announce their return. Eyeing the packed crowd, the white-haired teen mentally admits he was super naive to act like an easy target all these years. Clearly, nobody here is buying the self-defense story coming from the useless youngest kid of the main family. Sitting on the courtroom throne, Patriarch Heinkel breaks the silence, demanding to know what that secret chat was about. Shocking everyone, the kid pulls out his dead cousin's confiscated sword with a firm grip. With a heavy strike, the young master buries the blade into the floor, totally shifting the vibe. Instantly, the visual impact of the move leaves the nobles, and even the commander with their jaws on the floor. Locking eyes with the branch leader, the little warlock declares he's gonna prove his innocence the hard way. Done with the red tape, the kid suggests settling the beef the brutal, old-school northern way. Dropping the challenge, the ex-necromancer demands an official trial by combat. The whole room turns into a chaotic mess of whispers and gasps at the suicidal idea. Historically, this savage method lets any dispute be settled by throwing hands with no weapon limits. Dripping in sweat, the cowardly count stammers, trying to make an excuse to dodge the duel. Not letting the enemy off the hook, our MC points out that even with proof of the ambush, the old man still tried to frame him. Even if he doesn't care about his mom in this life, he makes it clear that disrespecting the main bloodline crossed the line. Holding the sword hilt tight, the kid tells the branch patriarch to make up his mind already. Feeling the judgmental stares from the nobles, the scumbag realizes he has nowhere to hide. With a booming voice, the Supreme Lord stamps his approval on the clash, validating the northern tradition. Luckily for the jerk, the judge declares all evidence from the previous crime officially tossed out. Seeing a golden ticket, the preppy count gets his swagger back and mocks the kid's lack of magic. Full of malice, the old man announces he has the right to send a substitute champion to carve up the air. Completely cold, the little warlock tells the guy to go to hell, promising to show him live exactly how he butchered his son. Falling for the bait, the coward accepts the challenge and schedules the bloodbath for exactly 4 days from now. During the deal, the warrior commander just studies the kid's nerve, seeing he plans to use this drama as a stepping stone. Outside, night falls over the mansion, kicking off the crazy plan to revolutionize the dukedom. Inside the private quarters, a scream of pure denial shakes the crystal chandeliers. Sick with worry, the perfect older brother tears into his little brother for this suicidal stunt. Spelling out the danger, the blondie loses his cool while our hero just scratches his ear, looking bored. After revealing he got the patriarch's blessing, the white-haired teen leaves his older brother completely speechless. Trying to play the hero, the swordsman offers to tag in but gets shot down immediately. As an excuse, the warlock admits the main bloodline only stays on top thanks to the dad and the oldest son's talent. Staying grounded, the ex-villain tells his brother to wake up to the harsh reality of noble politics. The truth is, fighting in the useless kid's place would just give the branch rats the perfect excuse to assassinate the heir later. Knowing his brother is frustrated, our boy guarantees that a bloodbath is the only way to shake off his useless title. Crossing his arms like a boss, the young master declares he's not giving up his stage for revenge to anybody. Getting in his feelings, the blonde swordsman remembers the bright day he ran to meet his newborn baby brother. In those pure memories, the kid's tiny hand innocently reached for the sunlight from the window. That moment warmed the boy's heart, seeing a literal white-haired angel in the crib. Stubbornly, the blonde rejects their different bloodlines and cries over the fact that he already lost his little brother to the monastery once. Driven by a need to protect, the soldier grabs our MC's skinny shoulders, trying to shake some sense into him. With a genuine tear slipping out, the older brother begs him to listen. Used to being backstabbed, the Dark Lord gets confused internally, not understanding why someone would show such real emotion. Before the family drama gets worse, bodyguard Dunkel throws the door open, killing the vibe. Looking grim, the big knight announces that the Branch family just picked their executioner for the fight. Curious, both brothers ask who the threat is, and the name Randall rings out like a death sentence. Holding his rap sheet, the guard explains the guy is an ex-knight booted from the order with a horrific reputation. Terrifyingly, the image of an enraged lion perfectly captures the opponent's savage nature. Miles away in a filthy tavern, a wooden mug is filled to the brim with some sketchy booze. Surrounded by knocked-out mercs and broken bones, the bald monster chugs his drink, trying to drown his endless bloodlust. Gulping it down, the giant hydrates right under a stuffed lion's head. Flashing a sick smile, the huge guy admits it's been a minute since he heard a little kid scream. Back home, a brand new training sword is handed over to our hero. Checking out the weapon, the bodyguard says he forged the gear exactly how the young master asked. Aware of how fragile it is, the white-haired teen already knows the steel will turn to dust if it clashes with a mana-infused blade. Happy with the plan, the little warlock declares it's showtime and tells everyone to move out. Dripping with confidence, the kid walks with his head high, ready to face the deadly challenge. Down at the combat arena, the packed crowd starts whispering, amazed by the kid's guts. Sitting next to the patriarch, the shady count laughs at the kid's nerve to actually show up for his own execution. Overflowing with arrogance, the old man brags that his champion is a heavyweight imperial knight who's gonna crush the magicless loser. Staying completely silent, the family leader listens to his rival suggest swapping the kid for the older brother. Looking left and right, our MC searches the sandy arena for his opponent. Annoyed by the delay, the ex-villain grumbles in his head, wondering where the heck his executioner is hiding. Suddenly, a massive shadow completely covers the kid's skinny frame, making the atmosphere super heavy. Staring down his target, the monster named Randall shows off his facial scars, confirming he's the real deal. Caught off guard, our MC hears the giant point out that he's way younger than the rumors said. Stretching his thick fingers, the psycho looks at the kid's noodle arms and imagines the sound of his neck snapping. In the blink of an eye, the kid backs up at insane speed, leaving the Branch family's goons totally shook. Laughing it up, the Count cheers the quick retreat, thinking the main heir is already shaking in his boots. Enjoying the panic, the brute smiles wide, watching his prey run like a scared little cat. Wiping away cold sweat, the little warlock swears it wasn't fear, just a legit jump scare from the size of the guy. Instantly, his mind flashes back to the gossipy priest's heavy hand squeezing his shoulder. Cursing the holy man in his head, the young master complains about his stupid holy water torture trauma. Up in the stands, the warrior commander watches the whole thing looking bored, while the guard tells them to resume. Not taking any excuses, the blonde remembers their crazy bet, promising to pay up with a kiss if the kid wins. Staring at the dirt floor, our MC turns his head, knowing he needs to test out a theory ASAP. Fake coughing to cover up the embarrassment of running away, the kid makes up an excuse about having a stiff neck lately. Remembering that massive hand almost crushing his skull, the guy braces himself for the real deal. Dropping his friendly face, the ex-necromancer goes off, telling the perverted giant not to touch him. Triggered by the insult, the muscular bald guy's face twitches as his blood boils with rage. Clapping back, the brute hits a nerve about the Empire abandoning him but compliments the prey's trash talk. Raising a massive fist, the monster brings the hammer down hard, promising to make the kid scream in pain. Brutally, the punch shatters the stone floor, kicking up dust and chunks of dirt everywhere. Completely confused, the giant's eyes go wide when he realizes he just punched thin air. Lifting his hand, he sees he only snagged the kid's dress coat, letting his target slip away without a scratch. Screaming in the stands, the nobles freak out over the insane damage caused by just one basic punch. Whipping his head around, the ex-knight searches for the main heir through the smoke of the impact. Safely out of range, the kid stands there in his dress shirt, patiently holding his training sword. Sizing up that raw power, the white-haired teen sighs, realizing that fighting this psycho head-on is a death wish. Charging like a freight train, the brute throws his entire body weight into a violent swing at the kid. Stressed out of his mind, the blonde brother warns that even a scratch from that monster will shatter all of the youngest's bones. Filled with anxiety, the oldest sibling is absolutely sure his little brother is walking straight into an early grave. Thinking back to the night before, the warlock rejected his brother's help just to stop the traitors from having an excuse to wipe out the pure bloodline. Spinning his steel weapon, the giant goes for a lethal slash, whipping up a deadly gust of wind. Putting all his rage into his arm, the ex-imperial warrior brings the heavy blade down without a drop of mercy. Firing up his magic eye, our MC tracks the strike and dodges with terrifying agility. Failing miserably, the bald guy's sword swing just slices through the empty air in the arena. Blinded by anger, the big guy unloads a wild combo of slashes trying to corner the kid. Jumping back at ridiculous speeds, the teen dodges a trail of earth spikes tearing up the ground. Roaring the prey's name, the executioner leaps up, aiming a vertical strike right at the kid's head. Deflecting the blow at the very last second, our hero slips away while hearing the giant ask if he thinks he can win just by running. Trying to bait him into messing up, the bald guy asks why the supposed great necromancer isn't using his dark magic. Pressing the attack, the merc yells, asking where the famous power of the continent's demon is. Tired of the yap, the little warlock boils on the inside, actually thinking about summoning the horde and icing everyone right there. Seeing an opening, the ex-knight jumps high, ready to slice the kid right down the middle. Watching from the sidelines, the traitor lord sweats, thinking his champion is going easy on purpose. Totally confused, the shady old man can't figure out how the brat is surviving this storm of attacks. Suddenly, a creepy vision takes over, showing the true aura of the Grim Reaper looming over the kid. Sweating buckets, the branch lord turns to the patriarch, demanding to know why the brute is backing off. Pointing his training sword, our MC swears up and down that he won't use a single drop of black magic. Dripping with fake pride, the white-haired teen claims he carries the blood of the sword and will win with pure physical combat. Hearing that heroic speech, his distant dad and his fanboy brother's eyes go wide, completely blown away. Buying the act hook, line, and sinker, the entire crowd goes wild, screaming the kid's name like massive fans. Watching the theater work perfectly, the cowardly count bites his lip in pure frustration. Trying to cool his nerves, the old man tells himself the brat is just running away and can't handle a real fight. Getting the message, the bald monster channels a massive red aura, covering his blade in pure energy. Knowing the kid has no power, the giant reminds him that imperial strength comes from burning magic without limits. Pushing every fiber of his body, the merc's muscles double in size and his veins pop out, looking ready to burst. In an explosion of crazy power, the brute brings his crimson axe down, creating a hurricane of impact. Convinced he's won, the executioner roars, telling the main family to go to hell with one finishing blow. Without blinking, the ex-villain's magic eye glows bright purple, mapping out every single particle of that killer energy. Tapping into the core of the attack, the kid decodes the entire technique and the enemy's magic capacity. Predicting the future, the warlock sees the exact path of the blade slicing the wind in red streaks. In a dirty move, the giant reaches out his free hand to crush the kid like a bug. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the ex-imperial warrior drives his energy blade down to end the fight once and for all. Using pure brute force, the giant brings the sword down, setting off an explosion of red energy that tears everything up. Kicking up dust on impact, the big guy looks for his target but gets totally confused when he comes up empty. In shock, the merc realizes the kid vanished and wonders if he actually read the strike's path that fast. Right above the monster's head, our hero drops in with his weapon primed for the attack. Cold and calculating, the little warlock points out that a body that big leaves the back completely wide open. Busting out the famous meteor sword, the kid lands a hit on the giant's back with a lethal purple flash. Totally stunned, the crowd recognizes the family's secret move, while the blonde brother's jaw hits the floor. Screaming in pain, the bald guy freaks out, unable to believe he just took a massive hit to the back. Smirking, the ex-necromancer flexes his magic eye, while the nobles wonder how he pulled that off without mana. Up in the stands, the extras side-eye the warrior commander, looking for some kind of explanation. Completely caught off guard, the red-eyed blonde can't hide her shock at the scene. Far away, the bodyguard thinks to himself that normally he would have jumped into the ring to defend his boss by now. In a quick flashback, the soldier admits to the Duke that acting on emotion would just ruin the family's rep even more. Worried sick, the knight warned the patriarch that the youngest had zero chance against an imperial warrior. Calm and collected, the old man explained that the kid was out there defending his late mother's honor. Eaten up by guilt, the leader admits he couldn't even save his son from the monastery back in the day. Frowning, the patriarch says that at the end of the day he can't protect anything, and tells the guard to chill out. Back in the present, the big guy stares at the arena with a focused look, keeping his eyes glued on the young master. Dodging deadly strikes, our MC proves he doesn't step into a fight to lose, no matter what. From his VIP throne, the dad watches every single move the kid makes with intense focus. In theory, the family's sword art is all about using as little mana as possible to survive the extreme cold of the north. On the flip side, the imperial style acts like a lion hunting its prey with pure brute force. Burning energy like crazy, the Empire's playbook is to crush the enemy by unleashing all their magic at once. In a quick comparison, the northern technique is like sniping a rabbit the exact second it slips up. All about precision, the art uses the bare minimum magic, striking like an eagle diving for the kill. With surgical mastery, the attack only drops when there's a perfect opening in the enemy's defense. Gripping his weapon tight, the little warlock proves he totally gets the lethal core of his family's style. Even running on empty, the kid smiles confidently, knowing the technique makes up for his lack of power. Shaking with rage, the bald merc realizes the kid's attack packs more than enough punch to do real damage. Grinding his teeth, the executioner calls our hero a rat and promises instant payback. Exploding in fury, the monster unleashes an ocean of crimson energy that blankets the whole arena. Roaring loudly, the imperial warrior looks like he's about to lose control from all the magic pumping through his veins. Feeling the heat, the crowd starts panicking, recognizing the champion's deadly trump card. Summoning the image of a demonic lion, the technique locks down the movements of anyone trying to run. Totally unbothered in the middle of the storm, the white-haired teen just laughs in the beefed-up brute's face. Believing the tables have turned, the giant brings the strike down, screaming that victory is his. Freaking out in the crowd, the blonde brother yells for his little bro to watch out for the impact. In a brutal clash, the heavy blade finds its target, but our MC blocks it by crossing his training sword. Instantly, the blacksmith's warning flashes in his mind. The weak steel is gonna turn to dust against pure magic. Exactly as predicted, the kid's weapon shatters into 1,000 pieces on impact. Grinning ear to ear, the bald guy celebrates breaking the guard, thinking he finally bagged the win. Wasting no time, the villain immediately lines up another lethal strike to cut the unarmed kid in half. But with his magic eye turned on, the ex-necromancer cracks a devilish smile, showing that his plan worked perfectly. Like a feather dropping from the sky, the kid's trap springs without a sound. Repping the imperial style, the giant lion doesn't even notice the quiet, deadly threat coming. Dropping from above, the shadow of the hunting eagle completely covers the beast, ready for the kill. Squeezing the broken handle tight, our hero pulls back what's left of the useless sword. Using the jagged edge, he tears across the merc's chest with a deep, lightning-fast purple slash. Instantly, the big guy's hand goes limp, dropping his weapon into the dirt. Watching the surgical strike, the patriarch speaks up, officially calling the match over. Shock ripples through the arena, and the shady count gulps hard, hearing the verdict of his defeat. Stunned by the sight, the bodyguard admits the kid mastered the technique with zero magic in his system. In a genius move, the kid let his weapon break on purpose, just so he could attack at point-blank range. Cold as ice, our hero turns his back, sealing his absolute victory in front of everybody. Sprawled in the dirt, the mercenary screams in agony, gripping the stump of his chopped-off arm. Racing against the clock, the medics rush the field to stop the loser from bleeding out. Ignoring the chaos, the white-haired teen watches the doctors blast the nasty wound with healing light. Curious about modern medicine, the kid asks if they can actually glue the arm back on. Disappointed, he hears that magic only closes the cut, and the big guy is gonna need a prosthetic. Grumbling in his head about how outdated healing spells are, the kid snaps to attention when his dad calls his name. With a stern look, the patriarch asks if his youngest feels even an ounce of pity for the mess he just made. Realizing he totally slipped up, the ex-warlock sweats, noticing he acted way too chill for a normal kid. Quickly, he slaps a hand to his head and fakes a dizzy spell from anxiety to throw the old man off his trail. Nearby, the traitor count is losing his mind, remembering the massive bag of cash he blew on that useless merc. Demanding his winnings from the bet, the patriarch tells his rival to confess his crimes, but the scumbag just screams no. Foaming at the mouth, the coward plays the victim, crying that he already lost his son and his branch's best fighter. Before he can finish his pity party, the old man's head goes flying from a clean, violent slash from our kid. Locking eyes on the dead body, our MC calls out the traitor's name without showing a drop of emotion. Slowly, the rival leader's headless body hits the floor with a thud, staining the arena with blood. Down in the spirit world, the preppy guy's soul realizes his neck is sliced and hears his executioner's cold voice. Getting up close to the ghost, the little warlock tells the sinner to spill everything to the true Lord of the North. In a spooky whisper, our hero demands the soul to hit its knees and beg for divine mercy. Instantly, a dark flame wraps around the spirit, sealing the bastard's endless punishment. Taking on his legendary form as the Dark Reaper, the Necromancer passes judgment on the traitor in the underworld without blinking. Wrapping up the crazy scene, the ghost screams in pure agony as it gets eaten alive by the purple fire of eternal doom. Holding the traitor's soul, the executioner announces that it's time to pay the piper. Right after, rabid dogs spawn from the afterlife, growling and ready to tear him apart. Showing absolutely no mercy, the hounds attack the ghost under orders to make him listen to the cries of the lives he took. Shaking with terror, Delkin learns that he built this exact hell for himself while he was alive. Screaming in agony, the coward melts away while getting devoured by the very dogs he used to abuse. Completely wrecked, the traitor's face turns into a creepy pile of goo right in the middle of his eternal torture. Snapping back to reality, the white-haired teen takes a deep breath, keeping his usual cool posture. Out of nowhere, the crazy priest sneaks up behind him, giving our boy a massive jump scare. Flashing a cynical smile, our MC says he's gonna reward the bone monster for helping out in the fight. Using a release spell, the warlock breaks the skeleton's curse, giving his ally some eternal rest. Turning to dust in the wind, the freed soul says thanks, but the kid starts wondering what the real point of his reincarnation is. Not wasting any time, the holy man casually mentions he didn't expect to catch the young boss using pure necromancy. Suspicious, our hero wonders if the psycho saw everything and demands to know who he really is. Hiding in the shadows, a mysterious hooded guy says the kid doesn't need to know anything. Using black magic, the intruder funnels energy straight into Dalton's dead body. Instantly, the dead guy's eyes light up with a creepy blue glow. Freakily enough, the little villain's reanimated corpse starts standing up like a straight-up zombie. Worried, the white-haired teen recognizes the corpse control art his opponent is using. Smirking under his hood, the intruder claims the dead kid's body is gonna come in real handy. Far away, Erin waves excitedly at bodyguard Dunkel, wanting to spill the tea on her boss's childhood. Focused on the job, the knight brushes off the chat, saying he'll listen to the stories later. Holding the emergency scroll, the soldier tries to figure out why the young guy is carrying something so dangerous. Stressed about the 3-hour delay, the warrior gets a gut feeling that something terrible went down in the woods. Ready to ride out, Dunkel hops on his horse but gets blocked by the Branch family's guards. Looking like they want to fight, the guys tell him to wait since the tournament is still going on. Checking out the crest on their armor, the blonde spots that these are Dalton's personal bodyguards. Furious about the blockade, the Rhianland commander threatens to lay them out if they try to stop him. With a death glare, he makes it crystal clear he won't think twice about using force. Dropping a quick warning to the maid, the warrior says he's going after the kid right now. Worried, he tells Erin to head back to the mansion with the priest as fast as possible. Spooked, the little girl spills that the white-haired priest just vanished looking super serious. Right then, the blonde remembers our MC's warning about the holy man being super sketchy. Without a second thought, the knight kicks his horse into gear and bolts straight toward danger. Filled with rage, the soldier bites his glove, realizing the priest's disappearing act proves things are bad. Riding like a maniac, the warrior just prays that nothing awful has happened to the youngest heir. Deep in the woods, our kid complains that his magic tank is on empty and he can't use necromancy right now. Surrounded by reanimated freaks, the warlock knows he won't last long running on fumes. Charging in as a pack, the zombies get the green light to tear the white-haired kid apart with zero mercy. Even while weak, the heir talks trash, calling his rival an idiot for thinking he can kill him using his own magic. Clenching his fist hard, the kid activates the glowing moon symbol on his hand. Growling from hunger, the undead rush our MC with everything they've got. Flashing a confident smile, the guy announces that his enemy just made the biggest mistake of his life. Totally confused, the hooded necromancer can't figure out why the kid is acting so cocky. Out of nowhere, the giant garrison drops from the sky, crushing the creatures with devastating punches. Charging up golden energy, the brute shines bright as he preps a holy light spell. Cleansing the whole area, the divine strike vaporizes the zombie horde in a massive explosion. Super chill, the holy warrior tells the young boss to take a breather since he's safe now. Shaking with fear, the hooded guy demands to know who this monster in a suit actually is. Not holding back, the giant introduces himself as Garrison, one of the Holy Order's most feared proxies. In the history books, proxies are known as the three human weapons taking orders directly from the Pope. As the Empire's ultimate military force, they're the only ones allowed to wield holy relics. Legends say just one of these warriors hits as hard as an entire armed fortress. Crushed by the insane pressure, the necromancer tries to back up, trembling in pure terror. With one clean hit, the priest knocks the intruder away, shattering his defenses instantly. Badly hurt, the criminal asks which of the three proxies he's dealing with. Famous for his unbeatable physical strength, the priest tells his young boss not to sweat it. With a sharp grin, the giant announces that the cavalry has finally arrived on the battlefield. Heavy footsteps thump on the grass as the robed monster charges the rest of the horde. Brutally, the executioner flattens the zombies, sending mutilated body parts flying into the air. Even while groaning in pain, the reanimated freaks try to fight back but get chopped up on the spot. Showing zero mercy, the holy man crushes one of the creature's skulls with his bare hands. Holding up his holy book, the executioner drops his final judgment on the sinners. With sparks of fire in his eyes, the madman demands the enemies hit their knees and beg for forgiveness. Through a baptism of fire, the priest vaporizes the goons' heads with blasts of pure light. Desperate, the surviving monsters try to run from the violent cleansing. Stomping the ground hard, the big guy caves the earth in, leaving a dark crater all around him. Without a drop of pity, the divine magic blows up dozens of goons all at once. Focused on wiping them out, the priest smacks a survivor in the face with his holy book, drawing blood. Absolutely horrified, the hooded necromancer can't believe the destructive power of this warrior. Chilling on top of the bodies, Garrison spreads an aura of pure dread through the forest. Not looking back, the intruder runs for his life, cursing his boss for this botched mission. Picking up the pace, the rat tries to ghost the area, thinking he can actually outrun the massacre. In a flash, the priest's giant hand pops out of nowhere and grabs the runner by the head. Screaming in agony, the hooded guy feels his skull getting crushed by the executioner's steel grip. With a cold smirk, the psycho mentions he still needs to finish his prayer before sending him to hell. Chilling by the campfire, the bodyguard feels a weird breeze rolling through the night air. With a dead serious look, the white-haired kid warns that some things should never be talked about with anyone. Totally lost, Soldier Dunkel stutters, not understanding the sudden vibe shift. Out of nowhere, a high-pitched scream from Maid Erin cuts the silence, making both of them jump. Miles away, a desperate scream echoes across the town rooftops under a spooky fog. Panicking, the locals run through the streets, trying to escape a horde of starving zombies that just crashed the place. Baring their teeth, the creatures of the dark lunge forward, biting anyone caught slipping. Moving fast, Knight Dunkel jumps into the action, slicing up monsters to clear a path. Shook by the size of the horde, the soldier yells for the young master, fearing the worst. With his sword glowing with purple flames, our boy cleanly takes off a zombie's head with surgical precision. Not looking scared at all, the kid turns his head and coldly asks what his guard is doing just standing there. Getting straight to business, the white-haired teen orders the warrior to go save the villagers ASAP. Grateful for the save, the survivors nervously ask who this white-haired young hero is. Skipping the thank yous, our MC wants to know how long these freaks have been popping up around here. Checking out the bodies, the warlock realizes the spell is exactly the same one that hit him in the forest. Shaking with fear, a local spills that this nightmare started 2 months ago when the Count locked down the mine. Midrant, the guy drops the bomb that the monsters are actually their own neighbors, leaving our MC totally stunned. Losing his mind, the villager grabs the kid's collar, demanding to know if he's really a Reinland. Tightening his grip, the guy demands answers while Dunkel steps up, telling him to let the young master go. Crying angry tears, the villager screams that they begged for help for 2 months and nobody sent back a word. Pointing at the ground, he throws it in his face that the monster they just sliced up was someone he loved. Sobbing hard, the man reveals that the creature was his own dad, who just worked day and night in the mine. Heartbroken, the poor guy asks why regular folks always have to suffer so much in this land. Hearing this, the little warlock's mind drifts back to the bloody, glorious days of Archimonde. With his eyes glowing purple, our hero tells the guy to shut it, stating that this tragedy isn't his fault. Cold as ice, the kid points out he didn't turn anyone into zombies and tells him to aim his anger at the real bad guy. Trying to cool things down, Dunkel says he'll handle it, but the white-haired kid is already charging up a spell in his hand. Speaking seriously, the warlock commands the innocent souls trapped in eternal pain to listen to him. Glowing with blue energy, the kid promises to guide their way as the fallen zombies start floating. Reaching his hand out, the air sets the rules for their spiritual release. Right in front of everyone, the blue souls of the villagers start rising up to the sky. Wrapped in the light, the dad's ghost smiles gratefully, leaving a runic message hanging in the air. With a quiet nod, the white-haired teen accepts the message, showing total respect for their pain. Jaw on the floor, Dunkel recognizes the legendary soul resonance technique. Mind blown, the survivors recall that this spell was used 200 years ago to free the plague victims. Crying happy tears, the son says goodbye to his dad's spirit, who finally gets to rest in peace. Shooting up into the sky, the beams of light clear the darkness from that cursed night. Step by step down the dark road, the duo keeps moving in silence under the night sky. Going off the locals' directions, our MC knows the straight path up the mountain leads right to the mine. Getting right to it, Knight Dunkel asks what the kid was talking about with the spirits before they left. Not giving up much, the kid plays it off, saying it was no big deal. Pushed by the guard's nosiness, the kid just admits the ghost said thanks for freeing them. But right after, the white-haired teen drops the bomb that they begged for revenge against their killers. Looking serious, the soldier repeats the word revenge, feeling the heavy vibe of that dark secret. Troubled by his suspicions, the warrior thinks back to the legends of the demon Archimonde and the vow of silence. Gripping his sword tight, the knight decides it's time to clear the air once and for all. Pointing his blade right at the kid's back, the soldier demands to know his real identity. Jumping back in time, the warrior's brain flashes to the day little Klein came back to the dukedom. Back then, everybody knew the cursed kid had spent 7 years locked up in an isolated monastery. But the creepiest part was the dead, empty look in the kid's eyes, a child showing absolutely zero emotion. Literally on day 1, the nightmare started with screams echoing through the estate's gardens. Freaking out, the maids found a dead cat just laying there on the castle kitchen floor. The next day, another lifeless feline popped up in the yard, and a third one right after that. All in all, a total of 7 dead cats were found without life scattered around the castle in a super creepy way. Full of gossip, the staff whispered that the kid's bloodline was cursed by the demon himself. Clueless to the heavy vibes, the young master spent his days chilling by the window, staring into space. Even knowing the rumors, a younger Dunkel thought the kid was way too little to be messing with real necromancy. Suddenly, weird footsteps in the hallway catch the knight's attention in the middle of the night. In the pitch black, a mysterious lantern slowly creeps through the dark palace. Feeling suspicious, the soldier follows the light and spots little Klein just wandering around aimlessly. Curious, the warrior wonders where a kid that age is going so late at night. Moving quietly, the white-haired boy walks forward, keeping a tight grip on the metal lantern. Trailing his target, Dunkel tracks the kid all the way to the edge of a spooky forest nearby. With crows flying overhead, an abandoned graveyard pops up in the middle of the thick, creepy brush. Hiding behind the trees, the soldier tries to figure out why the little boss is hanging out in a place for dead people. Blocked by the massive tombstones, the warrior decides to creep up closer to see what's going down. Suddenly, a bright flash startles the knight, making him yell for the young master while pulling his sword out in a panic. To his total surprise, the little kid was sitting there surrounded by the 7 cats that were supposed to be dead. Jaw-dropping, the blonde asks what the heck is going on, and the little warlock calmly answers that he's throwing a funeral for them. After checking the bodies, the kid explains that the animals caught some contagious disease that doesn't hurt humans. Being super careful, the kid says he has to bury all of them so the plague doesn't spread and other animals don't dig them up. Worried, Dunkel suggests calling someone else so the young heir doesn't have to get his hands dirty. Dead serious, the little guy replies that it doesn't matter who does it, as long as the job gets done right. Snapping back to the present, the knight keeps his sword pointed at the kid's back, demanding the truth about who he is. With a slight tilt of his head, the white-haired teen sarcastically asks if the soldier remembers the very first lesson of Berkel Reinland. Using pure brute force, the giant brings the sword down, setting off an explosion of red energy that tears everything up. Kicking up dust on impact, the big guy looks for his target but gets totally confused when he comes up empty. In shock, the merc realizes the kid vanished and wonders if he actually read the strike's path that fast. Right above the monster's head, our hero drops in with his weapon primed for the attack. Cold and calculating, the little warlock points out that a body that big leaves the back completely wide open. Busting out the famous meteor sword, the kid lands a hit on the giant's back with a lethal purple flash. Totally stunned, the crowd recognizes the family's secret move, while the blonde brother's jaw hits the floor. Screaming in pain, the bald guy freaks out, unable to believe he just took a massive hit to the back. Smirking, the ex-necromancer flexes his magic eye, while the nobles wonder how he pulled that off without mana. Up in the stands, the extras side-eye the warrior commander, looking for some kind of explanation. Completely caught off guard, the red-eyed blonde can't hide her shock at the scene. Far away, the bodyguard thinks to himself that normally he would have jumped into the ring to defend his boss by now. In a quick flashback, the soldier admits to the Duke that acting on emotion would just ruin the family's rep even more. Worried sick, the knight warned the patriarch that the youngest had zero chance against an imperial warrior. Calm and collected, the old man explained that the kid was out there defending his late mother's honor. Eaten up by guilt, the leader admits he couldn't even save his son from the monastery back in the day. Frowning, the patriarch says that at the end of the day he can't protect anything, and tells the guard to chill out. Back in the present, the big guy stares at the arena with a focused look, keeping his eyes glued on the young master. Dodging deadly strikes, our MC proves he doesn't step into a fight to lose, no matter what. From his VIP throne, the dad watches every single move the kid makes with intense focus. In theory, the family's sword art is all about using as little mana as possible to survive the extreme cold of the north. On the flip side, the imperial style acts like a lion hunting its prey with pure brute force. Burning energy like crazy, the Empire's playbook is to crush the enemy by unleashing all their magic at once. In a quick comparison, the northern technique is like sniping a rabbit the exact second it slips up. All about precision, the art uses the bare minimum magic, striking like an eagle diving for the kill. With surgical mastery, the attack only drops when there's a perfect opening in the enemy's defense. Gripping his weapon tight, the little warlock proves he totally gets the lethal core of his family's style. Even running on empty, the kid smiles confidently, knowing the technique makes up for his lack of power. Shaking with rage, the bald merc realizes the kid's attack packs more than enough punch to do real damage. Grinding his teeth, the executioner calls our hero a rat and promises instant payback. Exploding in fury, the monster unleashes an ocean of crimson energy that blankets the whole arena. Roaring loudly, the imperial warrior looks like he's about to lose control from all the magic pumping through his veins. Feeling the heat, the crowd starts panicking, recognizing the champion's deadly trump card. Summoning the image of a demonic lion, the technique shifts and locks down the movements of anyone trying to run. Totally unbothered in the middle of the storm, the white-haired teen just laughs in the beefed-up brute's face. Believing the tables have turned, the giant brings the strike down, screaming that victory is his. Freaking out in the crowd, the blonde brother yells for his little bro to watch out for the impact. In a brutal clash, the heavy blade finds its target, but our MC blocks it by crossing his training sword. Instantly, the blacksmith's warning flashes in his mind: the weak steel is gonna turn to dust against pure magic. Exactly as predicted, the kid's weapon shatters into 1,000 pieces on impact. Grinning ear to ear, the bald guy celebrates breaking the guard, thinking he finally bagged the win. Wasting no time, the villain immediately lines up another lethal strike to cut the unarmed kid in half. But with his magic eye turned on, the ex-necromancer cracks a devilish smile, showing that his plan worked perfectly. Like a feather dropping from the sky, the kid's trap springs without a sound. Repping the imperial style, the giant lion doesn't even notice the quiet, deadly threat coming. Dropping from above, the shadow of the hunting eagle completely covers the beast, ready for the kill. Squeezing the broken handle tight, our hero pulls back what's left of the useless sword. Using the jagged edge, he tears across the merc's chest with a deep, lightning-fast purple slash. Instantly, the big guy's hand goes limp, dropping his weapon into the dirt. Watching the surgical strike, the patriarch calls the fight, officially declaring the match over. Shock ripples through the arena, and the shady count gulps hard, hearing the verdict of his defeat. Stunned by the sight, the bodyguard admits the kid mastered the technique with zero magic in his system. In a genius move, the kid let his weapon break on purpose, just so he could attack at point-blank range. Cold as ice, our hero turns his back, sealing his absolute victory in front of everybody. Sprawled in the dirt, the mercenary screams in agony, gripping the stump of his chopped-off arm. Racing against the clock, the medics rush the field to stop the loser from bleeding out. Ignoring the chaos, the white-haired teen watches the doctors blast the nasty wound with healing light. Curious about modern medicine, the kid asks if they can actually glue the arm back on. Disappointed, he hears that magic only closes the cut, and the big guy is gonna need a prosthetic. Grumbling in his head about how outdated healing spells are, the kid snaps to attention when his dad calls his name. With a stern look, the patriarch asks if his youngest feels even an ounce of pity for the mess he just made. Realizing he totally slipped up, the ex-warlock sweats, noticing he acted way too chill for a normal kid. Quickly, he slaps a hand to his head and fakes a dizzy spell from anxiety to throw the old man off his trail. Nearby, the traitor count is losing his mind, remembering the massive bag of cash he blew on that useless merc. Demanding his winnings from the bet, the patriarch tells his rival to confess his crimes, but the scumbag just screams no. Foaming at the mouth, the coward plays the victim, crying that he already lost his son and his branch's best fighter. Before he can finish his pity party, the old man's head goes flying from a clean, violent slash from our kid. Locking eyes on the dead body, our MC calls out the traitor's name without showing a drop of emotion. Slowly, the rival leader's headless body hits the floor with a thud, staining the arena with blood. Down in the spirit world, the preppy guy's soul realizes his neck is sliced and hears his executioner's cold voice. Getting up close to the ghost, the little warlock tells the sinner to spill everything to the true Lord of the North. In a spooky whisper, our hero demands the soul to hit its knees and beg for divine mercy. Instantly, a dark flame wraps around the spirit, sealing the bastard's endless punishment. Taking on his legendary form as the Dark Reaper, the Necromancer passes judgment on the traitor in the underworld without blinking. Wrapping up the crazy scene, the ghost screams in pure agony as it gets eaten alive by the purple fire of eternal doom. Curious about the weather, bodyguard Dunkel looks up at the sky but brushes off the cold breeze. With a terrifying look, the white-haired teen warns him never to bring up that forbidden subject again. Totally caught off guard, the soldier stammers, not getting why the kid reacted so aggressively. Out of nowhere, a terrified scream from little Aaron shatters the quiet camp. Miles away, a desperate scream echoes across the town rooftops under the gloomy night. Panicking, the locals sprint through the streets, running away from starving reanimated monsters. Baring their teeth, the creatures of the dark lunge forward, biting anyone caught slipping. Moving at top speed, Warrior Dunkel uses his light sword to slice up the freaks. Worried about safety, the knight yells out for the young boss, fearing the worst. With his blade glowing, the kid cleanly takes off a monster's head with one perfect swing. Showing no fear, the boy turns his head and asks what his partner is doing just standing there. Straight to the point, our MC orders the soldier to go save the villagers immediately. Standing in front of the locals, the knight introduces the kid as the legit heir of the famous Rhianland family. Skipping the thank yous, our hero wants to know how long these freaks have been popping up around here. Checking out the bodies, our boy realizes the reanimation magic is exactly the same as the one that hit him before. With a shaky voice, a terrified local spills that this nightmare started 2 months ago after the mine was shut down. In a tragic tone, the man explains that the monsters were actually their own neighbors from the village. Losing his mind, the villager grabs the kid's shirt, aggressively demanding some answers. Yanking him hard, the guy demands the truth while the knight steps in to break them up. Crying angry tears, the peasant screams that they begged for help for 2 months without a single word back from the nobles. Pointing at the yard, the villager yells that the creature they just defeated was someone very close to him. Sobbing in pain, the man reveals the sliced-up zombie was his own hardworking dad. Heartbroken, the poor guy questions why the weak always have to suffer so much in life. Hearing this, the protagonist's mind drifts back to the bloody, glorious days of Archimonde. With his eyes glowing purple, the teen tells the guy to shut it, having zero patience for this guilt trip. Cold as ice, the white-haired kid points out he didn't turn anyone into a zombie and tells him to blame the real culprit. Trying to cool things down, Dunkel offers to take care of the people, but the kid is already charging up his magic. Speaking seriously, the warlock commands the innocent souls who died in pain to listen to him. Glowing with blue energy, the kid promises to guide their way as the dead bodies start to float. Reaching his hand out, the air sets the rules for the new spiritual summoning. Right in front of everyone, the blue souls of the dead leave their bodies and float up to the sky. In the middle of the spell, the dad's ghost smiles gratefully, leaving runic marks in the air. With a subtle nod, the white-haired teen accepts the thanks, showing respect for the people's pain. Jaw on the floor, Knight Dunkel recognizes the mystical soul resonance technique. Mind blown, the peasants recall that this spell was used 200 years ago in the north. With tears in his eyes, the guy says goodbye to his dad's spirit, who finally gets to rest. Shooting toward the sky, the blue beams purify that cursed night. Step by step down the dirt road, the duo keeps moving toward the mountain under the starlight. Going off the villagers' directions, our MC knows the straight path leads right to the mine entrance. Getting straight to it, Knight Dunkel asks what the young master was chatting about with the ghosts. Not giving up much, the white-haired teen changes the subject, pretending it was nothing important. Pressed by the guard's curiosity, the kid just reveals that the ghosts said thanks for freeing them. But right after, he confesses that the souls begged for revenge against the killer. Looking serious, the warrior repeats the word revenge, feeling the dark weight of their journey. Troubled by his suspicions, the blonde remembers the day he wondered if the youngest was the demon reincarnated. Gripping his sword tight, the soldier decides to clear the air about that story. Pointing his blade right at the kid's back, the blonde demands to know his real identity. Jumping back in time, the guard's brain flashes to the very first day he met the young master. Back then, everybody knew the cursed kid spent 7 years locked up in an isolated monastery. But the weirdest part was the dark, empty look of a child with zero human emotion. Literally on day one of his return, the terror kicked off with screams echoing through the mansion. Freaking out, the maids found a dead cat just laying there in the middle of the main kitchen. The next day, another lifeless feline popped up in the garden, and one more right after that. All in all, a total of 7 dead cats were found scattered around the castle in a super creepy way. Full of gossip, the staff spread rumors that the kid's bloodline carried cursed dark blood. Clueless to the chaos on the estate, the little master spent his days glued to the window, staring at nothing. Even knowing the rumors, young Dunkel thought the boy was way too innocent to summon real necromancy. Suddenly, weird footsteps in the dark hallway catch the knight's attention. Lighting up the pitch black, a mysterious lantern slowly creeps along in the middle of the night. Feeling suspicious, the soldier follows the light and sees the little white-haired kid walking alone in his pajamas. Curious, the hero wonders where a kid would be going at this time of night. Moving quietly, the kid walks forward, keeping a tight grip on the metal lantern. Trailing him, Dunkel tracks the kid all the way to the edge of a spooky woods that gives you the chills. Surrounded by crows, an abandoned graveyard shows up at the end of the dark trail. Hiding behind the tombstones, the warrior tries to figure out why the little boss is hanging out there. Because of the giant graves, the soldier decides to creep up closer to spy on the scene. Suddenly, a bright flash startles the knight, making him yell for the young master while pulling his sword out in a panic. To the guard's shock, the kid was sitting on the grass taking care of the 7 felines that looked alive again.